Ross Tucker from Westwood 1 will be part of the call. He had the call of the Steelers last week and the Jags. He also was on the sideline for the Eagles' win over the Falcons. Ross, welcome back to the show, pal.
Mike, my pleasure. Good to be back on with you.
Yeah, man. So you were there last week doing the sidelines for Westwood 1. Give us a little, your perspective and take of that 15-10 win for Philadelphia. I mean, late in that game, 4th down with their backs to the wall, the Eagles defense made a play. And, they said they kind of knew what was coming. They were prepared for that play. But take us down to the field for what it was like on that 4th down.
Well, first of all, just the environment in general for the entire day, the entire game was amazing. I mean, it really was. I got texts from buddies of mine that were at the game because I'm from outside of Philly, and, they were texting me saying people are getting very, very intoxicated and asking me what time the game started. I was like, 4:35, you got some more time, 4:35. So it was probably the best atmosphere that I can ever remember for an Eagles game. But I've never been there for a playoff game before. So you could feel the energy, you could feel the anxiety, you could feel the intensity throughout, and all of those things were really just amplified during the end of the game. I mean, I was on the Eagles sideline because my job is to interview someone from the winning team like within a minute after the game ends. So I'm on Eagles sideline, but I got my sideline producer over on the Falcons sideline trying to get me lined up somebody over there in case they threw a touchdown pass. And I think there were people that were very nervous during that last drive for the Falcons. I mean, you could sense and feel sort of a nervous energy on the sideline for the Eagles, especially after Tevin Coleman had that run to the 9. It was 1st and goal. It was almost like, oh, man. And Peterson did the right thing calling the timeouts. But then I thought the Falcons almost bailed them out a little bit. I mean, the first throw from Ryan wasn't even catchable. The second one, they go with the shovel pass to Teron Ward, of all people, when Tevin Coleman had been kind of tearing them up. 3rd down, they get the ball to Julio, but it was a nice tackle. And then 4th down, as soon as they went with the rollout, I felt pretty good about it just because you're cutting off the field. Anytime a quarterback rolls out like that, usually if they don't throw it right away, like the guy didn't get open on the rub route, you don't throw it to him on the quick out right away, they're usually in trouble, man, because there's just no space. There's no room to do anything else. So I felt good about that. I didn't realize till I saw it later, Mike, he still should have caught that ball. I mean, despite all of this, Julio Jones still should have caught that ball, went right through his hands.
He's had the drops a lot this year, right? I mean, that's been one of his problems. Not that he dropped that one, that he just didn't haul it in, but what a fantastic ending. And really, the defense of the Philadelphia Eagles, Ross, I've been saying all week, I thought they were the best unit of all the teams in the playoffs. The Eagles defense probably had the best day of any team in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. If you go back and look at it from the divisional round, they did because, they fumbled the ball 4 times, 2 of which they lost, including the muffed punt. That's the only way the Falcons scored their only touchdown. So I think you're right. I think the most impressive unit of the weekend was the Eagles defense, and I'm glad you said that, Mike, because I'm probably going to use that on Sunday.
Well, that being said then, Ross, they played against a team that prides itself on their defense, the Minnesota Vikings. So stack these two defenses up against each other because they're very similar teams. They both have backup quarterbacks. They both rely on their defense here. So whose defense do you like more?
Well, the Vikings have a more talented defense. I mean, if you look at the second level, Eric Kendricks and Anthony Barr. Barr's a Pro Bowl player. They're much better than the Eagles linebackers right now, I'd say. You look in the back end, as much as I like McLeod and Malcolm Jenkins, they're not Harrison Smith. I mean, Harrison Smith's awesome. Darby's pretty good. He's not Xavier Rhodes. So I think that the Vikings are more talented. I think where the Eagles have the edge in that regard is I think that they're deeper on the D-line. They come at you more in waves. And while Everson Griffin and Daniil Hunter are impressive, the Vikings don't have a guy like Fletcher Cox.
Right.
And so I think that's the edge. Plus, I don't think that the Vikings have the depth that the Eagles do on the D-line to come at you at waves. And guess what? the Vikings are on the road. They're not playing at home. They won't have that advantage of the noise and the offense having to go on the silent count. And one of the things I noticed in that game between the Vikings and the Saints is that the Saints got more pressure on the quarterback than the Vikings did. And the Vikings were at home. Now, part of that's because Breeze gets rid of the ball quick or whatever, but still, I mean, the Vikings were at home, crazy, noisy place, and they didn't get as much pressure as the Saints did. So that should bode really well for the Eagles because the Vikings have some issues right now up front with their O-line, left guard, right tackle. The Eagles really do not. They're feeling pretty good about where they're at. And so, to me, Mike, the advantage for the Vikings is I think they're better at quarterback. Keenum's had a better year, played more than Foles, and I think that they're the more talented team. I think the Eagles' advantage is that I think they're better on the offensive and defensive lines, which is the most important aspect of the game other than quarterback, I think. And the Eagles are playing at home, all of which is why I think it's going to be an awesome game.
You can make the argument that what you just said, Ross, is that the Eagles were better on the offense and defensive lines than the Falcons last week. Hence, they pulled out a ugly 15-10 hard-fought win. Ross Tucker, Westwood won. He'll be on the call right here on 97.3 ESPN. We will carry that game for you. He is here along. Tell us a little bit before we get to this AFC game about ballcannon.com. I had multiple people last week. I was doing the Eagles pregame show, and they were asking me about when you were on about what do I know about ballcannon.com. I said, well, I don't know a whole heck of a lot, so let's have you bring you back in to tell people a little bit more about it.
Well, it's awesome. It's made by a guy from my hometown in Reading, PA. And everybody sees, Zach Ertz and Aguilar and these guys catching passes off of jugs machines at Eagles practice. It's the same kind of deal, except it's recreational. It's for your kids, whether they're teenagers or 5 years old or anything in between. And it's awesome, man. I mean, it's the only thing I know of that actually gets kids to stop playing video games, to get off their phone, to get outside, because you can change the speed, you can change the launch angle. Pretty darn cool what you're able to do. There's even a delay feature, so you can hit a button and fire the ball to yourself. Press the button, go run around, and fire the ball to yourself, which is awesome. So if you haven't actually checked out the video, go to ballcannon.com, check out the video there, or just anything on social media. Just search for Ball Cannon. You'll see all the videos there, too.
Good stuff. Ross Tucker, Westwood won, Eagles and Vikings. You also were on the call last week for that Steelers-Jags game. So seeing the Jags up close like that, I wasn't surprised that they won the game. I was surprised at how they won the game. So can they win a similar style game against the Patriots?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I agree with you, although I would say this. I was surprised they won the game. I did not think that would happen. But if they did win it, I would have thought it would be 17-13
right,
or something like that. I certainly did not think that it was going to be, 45-42. And really, those guys came to play. I mean, they were ticked off about the perceived slights from the Steelers. Not even perceived slight, the blatant slights. From the Steelers. I mean, they were legitimately angry about it. And the Steelers, I thought, came out flat, and boom, the Jags punched him in the mouth. Next thing you know, it was 21-0. Thought the Steelers were very poorly coached in the game. It's like they had no idea the Jags might come with play-action passes and run the ball. I mean, it's beyond comprehension how the Steelers weren't better prepared for that. I mean, Mike, guys were wide open. I mean, wide-ass open the whole game. It was crazy.
Really was. And the Jaguars, they had little lapses at times, but they did not let up on the offensive side of the ball, and that's where people really thought their struggles were. But they got an offensive mind coach, Doug Marrone, and they end up putting 45 on the board, and they'll play the Patriots in the early game on Sunday. Ross Tucker will call the Eagles and the Vikings, and Westwood won. We'll have that game for you here. So, Ross, to Minnesota, who will be playing in Minnesota on February 4th?
I think it's a toss-up. I really do. I think that the Vikings are a better team than the Falcons. I thought that the Vikings-Saints game was essentially the NFC Championship game. Foles played well enough that I think the Eagles can win I think if Foles play like he did in the second half, I think the Eagles can win the Super Bowl. They're good enough to do it. That doesn't mean I think they will. I'm going to go Vikings 16, Eagles 13.
Close to right around your score from last week, so I feel good about that. An ugly game, low scoring. We'll see how it goes, and you can catch all the action right here on 97.3 ESPN on Sunday with Westwood 1. Ross Tucker will be a part of that broadcast, and we appreciate him being part of this broadcast here. And don't forget ballcannon.com. Guys, check that out. Guys with kids, want to get them out of the house, like Ross said, ballcannon.com. Thank you so much, Ross. Hopefully we've got Eagles, somebody in the Super Bowl, and we can talk about that next time.
That would be very cool. See you, Mike.